Hi, my name is DJ Shopkeep. I like to collect records, and I do not know how to DJ. I've been collecting for about 4 years. I've got a couple things here, only about 200 in total, because I like to take a more pretentious hipster approach to collecting. I don't have a lot of the usual things that the essentials, simply because I want to save up for the weirdo stuff that I like. Things like this record, for example. Things that are off the beaten path. I'm constantly looking for weird music. That's how I like to collect. So this is my formal introduction to the vinyl community. I figured I would start by showing off just how I like to do things, how I like to collect, find music, also show off 10 records. These 10 records are specifically the most valuable ones I have so far. That's based off of Discogs median price. Instead of really going into what the prices are, I'm instead going to go through and tell you what reissues of each of these are available, so that you could, enjoy this music in physical form while not spending ridiculous amounts of money like I did. As our parents would say, do as I say, not as I do. So, first I'll show you the way I like to look for things. So first, I'm lurking music in all ways. I'm looking at the literature, things like the Acid Archives. This is a great book for garage rock, psychedelic rock, prog, folk rock, any of those sorts of genres. There's a bunch of that good stuff in here, a bunch of really rare local things that you'd probably never hear of otherwise, things that aren't on streaming, some that aren't even really on YouTube or anything like that. This is a great resource. Of course, I was saying at the same time, things like YouTube and Spotify. I do a lot of lurking on there. I hit shuffle on Spotify. I'll look at all those weird YouTube channels that have everything, just weird little things you've never heard before uploaded. I love those types of channels. I got a couple other books here I'll show you. I got 1,000 record covers, the Tashin book. That's a stuff from the 50s all the way up to the 90s. I got Blue Note covers. This is a whole bunch of Blue Note album covers, if that's you want to get into more of that kind of jazz from the 50s and 60s all the way up into the 70s. And then this is one of my favorite books, and I need to see if there's more funk and soul books that are like the Hans Pecora type books, the Record Collector Dreams about funk and soul, where there's pictures. I know there's, different media things with funk and soul, but because so many of the rare ones and the sought after ones are 45s, there's not really any pictures of anything else. This has, a bunch of pictures of, different LPs, some that are better known, some that aren't. See some of that kind of stuff in here. I love this book because it showed me a bunch of stuff I'd never heard before and showed me an album cover so that I could be able to recognize it. I'm terrible with names, but I can always remember a photo. That's why I love those kinds of books. Also, a little thing, I do not have the Hans Pecora books. I would love to get the Hans Pecora books. But if you can't afford the Hans Pecora books because they're out of print, go to archive.org, type in Record Collector Dreams in the text section. The first 6 books are all scanned in there. So if you want to start there without having to buy any books, that's a great start to show you a whole bunch of rare garage, psych, prog, all from the 60s and 70s. It's a phenomenal resource. So that's that bit out of the way. I will now show you the 10 records that are currently the most valuable in my collection and tell you a little bit about them, how much I enjoy them. We actually begin with one of my personal favorite records in my entire collection. This is the J. Teal Band with Cooks. This is North Carolina Southern rock, and it is phenomenal. This is something that I did not expect to find so early in my record collecting journey. I discovered this from the great Noble Records, Dylan Smith, that YouTube channel. Please go subscribe to him. I like that guy. He's very cool, and he has a phenomenal beard. But yes, he showed this record in a video, and I immediately was like, I need to see what this Quaker Oats album is about, and I gave it a listen. It's on Spotify, so you can at least listen to it there. Unfortunately, there's not really any reissues other than a CD, I think, from like the 2000s. That's really it. But at least it's on streaming, and you can listen to it there. But yes, this is a phenomenal record. So what's interesting about me trying to get this record initially, I tried a couple times. I bought it off Discogs for a decent price. Originally I was going to buy a more expensive one, but literally the day before I got paid, it's gone. it was bought at night the other day. So I took a chance with a more sus listing that was cheaper. It was from Peru. It had no description, but at least the seller had a lot of reviews. So I took a chance on it. Asked for photos first. He sent photos right away. I sent the money. Didn't hear anything back for 5 days. I asked him like, hey, any updates? And he said, oh, sorry, I sent this 5 days ago. So it got here. It got here in near mint condition. This thing is very clean. It's on the Mother Cleo record label from North Carolina. Here's the back cover for you as well. Like I said, this is a minty fresh copy that I got for a very good deal. So going more about the music. This is Southern rock. There's nothing really like crazy psychedelic solos. It is very much, down to earth Southern hard rock. Very well written melodies. Production is phenomenal. The guitars have that nice little bit of distortion to keep it interesting. I love the singer's voice. It's like this bit of nasally with a Southern twang. It works really well for the album, and the whole thing is just a lovely vibe. It's a little funky at times as well. This is a really killer one. Please go check that out. Again, like I said, this is on streaming. I don't know, the only reissues are CDs, but there's at least streaming. So there's that for you. Next up, we have Fresh Blueberry Pancake with Heavy. Now, something about me, I don't like to buy reissues unless I'm absolutely sure that there is no way in hell that I'm getting an original. And it does not get any more of that case than Fresh Blueberry Pancake. So this record in particular, it originally came out in 1970 because only 54 copies were originally created. It was a private release, all white covers. Majority of those covers got this orange sticker on them. I'll put a picture up in the video. And the couple that I've seen that have sold, listings online and that, it's $7,000 and up. So that's not happening anytime soon. However, a lovely reissue / bootleg label from Germany called Shadox Music got a hold of a copy. I think they just ripped it straight from another copy. Came out with this gorgeous blue vinyl version right here. They only made 450 of these little reissues here. This is from 2001, technically a bootleg, but it sounds really killer. Shadox Music, I think, is one of the better early reissue labels. They did a fantastic job. They're in that same lane as Rockadelic, if you know them. But yes, this is an incredible one. And good news about this one cost me a little bit because it was for the longest time it was the only physical copy you could really get of that original album for the longest time. And then I believe Ancient Grease Records got a hold of it and made actual reissues with the original cover with that red sticker on the white background. So it's a lot easier to get a copy nowadays than when it was back then. So that's a really killer one. I keep trying to put them down there, and I should put them up here. Next up, this is a really neat sort of local joint. This is Valhalla. This is heavy metal based out of the Pittsburgh area. Technically more based out of Canada. The band they began in Pittsburgh. They had a couple different names doing cover songs. I think they were like Snowblind, Armageddon. Those were the couple names that they had. And then they went up north to toward a Vancouver area. Had a lot more success up there, and that's where they got this record printed out. This was made in Canada, printed and made in Canada. This is another really killer private press record right there. Really beautiful, and this is a nice little copy. There's the back cover for you. Whole band from Pennsylvania. It was recorded in Pennsylvania, but yes, the whole band signed the record, the whole 5-piece. A lot of those signatures, that marker that they used was pretty bad, so I guess it didn't matter. But that's not the only signatures on this thing. Something else crazy. When I bought this at the store, well, first one thing happened. A guy walked past me as I was checking it out saying my buddy was in that band. I took his word for it. I didn't really press any further. But not only that, when I finally got this thing home and looked inside the jacket, this little signed sticker was in there. This is Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, Thrash Zone, one of their albums. This is a band from San Diego, kind of a hardcore punk style band. Just complete random. I really hope whoever sold this record isn't punching the air, wondering where their sticker is, because it's mine now. This does have a reissue. This does have a reissue with extra songs on it, more of a full LP. This is actually just like a 12-inch with like, I think it's 20-something minutes of music. There's about 4 songs plus a little intro track. So yes, you can get more music for less than the original cost for sure. So definitely check that out. This is also on streaming as well on Spotify. Next up, we have another really cool one. This is another local Pittsburgh joint. This one I got most recently. This is Excalibur, Warriors of the Nights. This is more heavy metal. This is more of that power metal type, hair metal type thing. Really nice. That has these really cool acoustic parts, and the melodies are really nice. Really killer stuff. This is another private press on that neat little silver label there. This one, like I said, is also Pittsburgh. You can see the back cover there with all the guys painted on the back. This is one. There's also reissues of this. Some of the reissues go for a little bit of money. Some of them don't. I know the earliest reissue from like 2017 is a little bit of money, but it's not nearly as much as this thing could go for. Oh, I almost forgot. There's the original inner sleeve. You can see right there, back cover. It also has the lyric sheets. It doubles as the lyric sheet, so that's really killer. So this does have everything in it. This was a really cool find. So yeah, like I said, there are reissues available. They might be a little expensive, just because it's only been reissued a couple times. But definitely go check this out. This is another one that's also on streaming. Beautiful. Next up, we are going into the jazz sphere. Next, we have Billy Brooks' Windows of Time. This is the original press from 1974. I say that because you can get a much cheaper copy if you go for the 1975 repress. So you can still get an original 70s press for a significantly less money. It's gone up a little bit, I think, in the past, I don't know how long, but it's still not going to be nearly as expensive as an original copy can be. But yeah, this is some really killer horn jazz. Really well done. You can see the phenomenal horn. I thought he was holding a different horn in every picture originally, but no, that's just the same funky looking horn in every single window. But yeah, really killer. This I actually got a really good deal on because the back cover was a little trashed. To me, that doesn't even look that bad. I'm more of a, for me, condition is not the end of the world, just because I'm not in the financial position to really have that kind of, beggars can't be choosy. And I am definitely a beggar. I shouldn't even be spending this money on originals of crap. Reissues are readily available. And this one definitely has some reissues. I'm not sure how much they are, but like I said, even the original 75 repress is a lot less expensive than the original. It's still a little expensive, but not as expensive. But yeah, reissues of jazz are constantly coming up. You can always get reissues of jazz stuff. Really killer stuff. So yes, this is a phenomenal bit of horn jazz. Definitely go check that out. Next up, we have a offering from the Black Jazz label, one of my favorite labels. This is Henry Franklin's Skipper. This is one of my favorite records on the on the Black Jazz label. Black Jazz was this, I forget where the label was started, but they had a lot of avant-garde black musicians doing jazz music on that label. They had, I think, a couple dozen releases originally. They all had this sort of all-black cover motif with this kind of font up top. Some of them varied a little bit, but they all sort of had this look. And on top of that, they were all really high-quality pressings. They were all quadraphonic stereo pressings. So what that means is, instead of 2 channels, which is stereo, there's 4 channels for quadraphonic. So if you had a quadraphonic stereo, you could have individual sounds coming from 4 different speakers, basically. So definitely a high collector's. Every single record on this label is incredible. I wish I had them all. I only have 2. I have this one, and then I have a Doug Karn record, and they both, cost me an arm and a leg. Next up, we have an interesting one. This is Weldon Irvine's Spirit Man, but more specifically, this is a Japanese original press of Weldon Irvine's Spirit Man. It's kind of hard to tell with that white label. But yes, this is the original press. You can kind of see some Japanese text on there. I got this simply because one of my favorite things is when a Japanese record does not have the original obi, it means I'm not going to spend all of my money on a record from that label or from Japan. In fact, the record I have in number 1 is that exact same scenario, spoiler alert. But yes, more on Weldon Irvine. This is one of the greatest jazz funk, fusion jazz composers of all time. Every single album this man makes is gold. All of his records are ridiculously expensive. He has, I think, 2 or 3 private press releases that are each $1,000. There's the 3 records he did on RCA, which I do have all 3 of those at least. I have the Pharaoh one, the one with the Pharaoh on the cover, which I can't remember the name of, Cosmic Vortex, Sinbad, and then this one. These I have because they don't cost me my house to get them. But yes, every single thing this man makes is gold. And he has more than that. He also has a record on the Strata East, which is another label like Black Jazz, really killer jazz label. And then he has later records from the 80s and 90s. He has a CD that's worth $150. It's insane. He's destroying my bank account thinking of trying to get everything that he has because it's all golden. Be careful. Buy reissues. This is on RCA, so there's absolutely reissues of like all the Weldon Irvine stuff that you can get. Next up, we have, I think this is actually number 3. I haven't really been saying the numbers, but yes, this is another sort of grail that I'm surprised to have this early in my record collecting journey. This is Black Cat Bones Barbed Wire Sandwich, and this is a really killer press. This is actually the original Decca press from the UK, stereo. This is a shock to me simply because I figured if I was ever going to get a copy, it would have to be that US press, the PIP one. But this one I got an absolute steal on because, according to the listing on Discogs, the back cover was doodled on, or colored in, because the back cover is supposed to be all black and white. I bought it without really asking for pictures. I was just curious what it would look like, and it was a steal anyways. I was still going to get a decent copy of the record, even if the back cover was just, a 4-year-old went ham on it, something like that. But I was absolutely shocked when this came in the mail. Look at that. That cover, that back cover, whoever did this was clearly on some sort of psychedelic, and they did a fantastic job. The detail on that is phenomenal. I figured, I was not expecting nearly this much insane detail just on that back cover. So this, in my opinion, this increases the value for me, just for me personally. Like I said, I got a steal on this thing simply because the back cover was colored on, and I could not be more happy that that's how it looks. It is phenomenal. But yes, Black Cat Bones, this is some insane, like really filthy sounding blues rock. Please go check this out. It is so good. And this is another one where there's absolutely reissues available. It's on a major label, and the popularity of it has been, pretty consistent. I think you can get a reissue, no problem. And it's obviously on streaming. Next up, we have Beard Lancaster, It's Not Up to Us. This is some more avant-garde type jazz. This is not quite on the major labels. This is on Vortex Records, which is a neat little label. Beard Lancaster, he's got a handful of records. This is probably the least expensive of them, which sucks because this is the second most valuable record I own. But yeah, everything he does is very good. This is sort of that avant-garde / free jazz lane. Some of it's an acquired taste. For me, it's definitely an acquired taste. I only have a handful of things in my collection that I would consider like free jazz, just because I can only handle so much of that. But this keeps more of a consistent tune, which makes it better for me. You can go avant-garde without sounding like you're, having a seizure on a saxophone. But yeah, this is really killer. This guy he doesn't have as much of a seizure on a saxophone as others would have sometimes. There's a lot of, changes of mood that make this record really interesting. There's a cover of the Over the Rainbow, which kind of gives it this very unique, disruptive feel. Really good record. That's all I'm going to say. Not good at explaining things. Just really good avant-garde jazz. A great intro to that sort of stuff if you want to get into more out there types of jazz. But yes, number 1, this is the most valuable thing I currently have. This is Love Will Make a Better You, Love, Live Life +1. This is a phenomenal blues, psych, jazz, experimental thing. That's what I would really call it. It is wonderfully bizarre. It's on this King Records label from Japan, which is a label that has apparently been around since the 1930s. The question mark, the opening track, is this insane track that it begins kind of very simple, but as it keeps going, it gets this like chaotic, disruptive sound going, like having a seizure on a guitar. It's almost like free psych, I would call it. But as that song keeps going, it slowly builds into a more cohesive form, and then by the third act, it's this incredible jammy, just psychedelic masterpiece with incredible playing. It sounds gorgeous. And then the 4 tracks on the other side are a mix of jazz, psychedelic music, and just a whole bunch of really cool stuff. This is an original press. If it has that 1,500 yen in the corner, it's an original. This is a neat. It has this gatefold. It's like a textured cover as well. It's more of the back cover. Really killer stuff. This is a really phenomenal record. I absolutely recommend you check this out. This, I believe, was actually reissued back in 2022. So there are reissues available. I'm not sure who makes them, but there's definitely reissues of this available. Please absolutely go check this record out. It is a experience. So yes, that is the 10 most valuable records in my collection as of right now. That is where my bank account is crying the most. Hopefully I'll make more videos, long-form videos in the future if this goes well. If you do not know, I've been making these short-form videos right here that are where I show 3 random records from my collection, usually of the same genre, just to introduce the world to more unique music. There's a snippet of each song, of a song on each album, and I give you a couple facts about the record, and I've doing that for 20 total episodes. So in honor of the 20th episode, I have made this video for my 50-something subscribers. So hopefully with having 50-something subscribers, this video gets at least 5 views. So again, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Farewell.